Hello everyone, I'm Caveman the One. This is the LAN, a weekly tech show made by members of the Level 1 Text community. This time we have a bunch of people here, and if you want to introduce yourselves, then we'll start with Jajon.
Oh, hey. I'm Joan. I am sort of our science guy, scientist by trade. And, so pretty much I just talk about all the science topics that we tend to bring up on the show, or I make fun of ridiculous nonsense that they try to pass off as science-based news, like something I will be talking about today, actually. So, yeah, that's pretty much it from me.
Let's see. Waffleben?
I am Waffleben, formerly known as Tracer, currently known as Castiel on the forums. I am the semi-legal analyst for the show. I'm certified as a
paralegal.
Yeah, I'm certified as a paralegal, but I can't give legal advice. But I can analyze legal stuff and try and distill the legal lingo and break it down for the common man. Yeah.
Okay, cool dude.
I'm cool, dude. I am here for banter. I know a lot about a lot and a little about a lot. So, really, I don't really specialize in anything specific, but I like to talk about tinfoil things and things that are edgy.
Okay.
He's our little scrub.
I'm the scrub.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm wearing a LAN Syndicate shirt.
Our little Agent Tinfoil.
Okay, and then Lessershoe?
I'm Lessershoe. I cover sports and weather.
Okay, Brick.
I'm engineering by trade, and sysadmin by moonlight.
Okay. I would do Nuggetninja, but he apparently is not here right now, so...
You can just call him the drunken high schooler.
That works.
Or the little Jew, a little Jew of the group.
I'm still here.
Oh, there he is.
Someone's vacuuming. What am I supposed to do?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm the resident Jew.
Okay. So
That's my title.
The politically correct term is Jim.
No, Jew. Shut up.
Joking Jew.
Okay.
Okay, moving on from that, we have Waffleben with your FM radio.
All right. So this one is kind of relevant in a way to the United States. So Norway is shutting down their FM radio stations that they had in operation. Now, I looked into this, and the article in itself is kind of clickbaity, but the fact of the matter is that radio stations being killed off or being shut down, it's something that makes sense when it comes to certain countries. After a certain time, there's so much revenue. They get their money from advertising, and it's based on how many people are listening, and they get paid based off that rate. Now, if people stop listening to the radio, eventually it makes no sense to keep those radio stations on, so they eventually shut them down. Now, I really don't want to talk about Norway shutting down their FM radio stations because it's not really relevant to us in the United States, but instead I wanted to talk about the radio situation in the United States right now. Most people aren't actually aware of this. In the United States of America, there are only two companies that own radio stations, and those are Viacom and
Clear Channel.
Yep, Clear Channel. Those are the two that own. There used to be a third one, but the third one is gone now. So as a result of these two companies owning all these radio stations, it's resulted in mass consolidation and mass syndication. Now, what that means is local talent is disappearing from smaller cities and smaller stations. Even in Atlanta itself, Joan and I have both been in Atlanta for long enough that we've actually experienced this. There's a radio station that is huge here, which is 95.5 FM or 750 WSB. Now, this radio station has the talent of Clark Howard. He used to actually be on the daily radio. You could actually listen to him during the day, while we're driving or whatever. But they moved him to where it was only on the web or rebroadcast at night, and being replaced with these syndicated people like Sean Hannity and other people. Now, the thing is that as a result of this national syndication of radio stations in smaller cities have actually started being shut down. Now, the reason I know about this is from personal experience when I was actually trying to get in the field of multimedia. My actual degree is in multimedia communications, meaning I actually am fully qualified to operate a radio equipment, be a communicator in that aspect, and do anything in radio, television, and film from the production side of things, as well as being a person in front of a mic. But when I was looking for a job, I would go to these radio stations. They were telling me that they were actually being shut down in a few weeks. So, of course, I wasn't going to be working there, that long term. So the fact is that basically every year, more and more radio stations in the United States are actually shutting down. And I could actually see within a few, potentially within a decade's time, where we may only have 500 radio stations in the United States left. And the only big ones left will be in the major cities like Atlanta, New York City, and so on. But the smaller cities, those radio stations are owned by these big corporate headquarters, and all they care about is profit. They don't care about you getting the information. They just care about profit. So,
yeah, I miss Clark Howard, my favorite Hebrew.
Yep. Anyone have any questions about mass consolidation? Actually, fun fact about mass consolidation. You may be wondering, how did this happen in the United States? This actually happened as a result of the 1996 Telecommunications Act. Yeah, that act alone didn't just affect the internet. It affected radio, it affected television, and it affected the internet.
Cell phones,
So it's a huge, important act, just to understand. It's not just one thing. It's all these communication things. All right. Moving on. Okay. So in the EU, the EC, they have a new privacy rule proposal. And this proposal, let's see, I didn't pull it up on mine, so I need to pull it up. Okay. So this one actually deals with metadata that companies can collect from you, like Google and Microsoft and Facebook, what they're legally allowed to collect from you. And well, the way this proposal is written is now Google and Facebook and these other companies that want to just collect everything, now they legally, with this proposal, if it passes, would have to actually ask you permission to collect this data. Otherwise, they cannot do it. So it may pass. The reason I say it may pass is because the EU in itself is kind of focused on the consumer privacy rights. What is the rights of the consumer, having their privacy and owning their data and all that stuff. They are kind of pro on that, but they're kind of a weird thing that they're weird. It's, yeah. But I just thought I'd bring it up. It's not passed yet, so not really much to say there. Let's see. So my next thing was actually the FCC have issued their report on AT&T and Verizon, and this is concerning the zero rating and whether or not it is illegal or it goes against the net neutrality. And the report, it's very clear. I've read it, and it's without a shadow of doubt, based on their findings, that yes, this is against net neutrality rules. This zero rating goes against net neutrality 100%. The problem is the people that are going to be taking over have been very clear that they have no intention on doing anything about this. Like the guy that's going to head this, the guy that potentially is going to be the new head commissioner, Ajat Pa, he's in the running for likely being the head one because he's the most senior Republican on the FCC board right now. So he's likely going to be the new commissioner. But he's basically said in so many words or less that we're not going to do anything about this, as well as he's also stated previously that he's going to undo net neutrality completely and make it go away. The interesting thing about that is that Tom Wheeler, I didn't put this in my article, but his last speech he gave, which he could have talked about anything, he spent the entire time talking about the importance of what net neutrality did and what allowed for things to happen. And he pleaded with the people that would be taking over, hey, before you dismantle this, please take a step back and look at what is happening right now. Take a look, see what it's done so far before you take this thing apart. Now, it may seem gloom and doom, but I do have a slight glimmer of hope. The glimmer of hope being that to overturn the net neutrality rules, the FCC has to have a full board. Now, if the positions are not filled, they can't overturn net neutrality. But at the same time, they can also choose not to enforce it. The other thing that you can do as a citizen in the United States is you can actually write the FCC commissioners yourself. Write a nice, firmly written letter for whoever takes over saying, hey, this is what net neutrality has done for me. So basically, everyone that if you love the internet and you love net neutrality and you want something to happen, if you don't want it to go away, you got to fight for it, basically.
Well, here's the thing. I hate to interrupt you there, Tracer, but it's that I'm not against doing that. It's just that I don't think that's going to make much of a difference, because among these officials who get these letters, I'm assuming they're emails primarily.
Right.
The nature, just the casual nature of email these days, how few people actually bother to read a lot of emails that they get at work, particularly with things that are against what they plan on doing. It's got to be something that really, really comes out in enormous numbers and puts pressure on other people as well as you. So, I mean, yeah, I think you're right, and you should protest about that sort of thing and make sure that this is not overturned. Personally, I don't think that that's going to be enough. It's going to have to take talking to your local representative, I think, something along those lines to put some pressure on the administrative aspect of this. I mean, the FCC is appointed by the executive, the head of the FCC, and all these chairman committees. Those are appointed by either the executive branch, the president, or with Congress, I would think, correct?
They're appointed by the president, yes.
Yeah.
And confirmed by Congress.
Yeah, confirmed by Congress, that's right. So, yeah, I would Trump's kind of going to be like, screw you, if you just don't like his appointees. But with Congress, I think you should write your own representative. It might be a more effective method there.
Yeah,
or you can call them Congress.gov, figure out who your local Congress critter is. It has all their information. Call them up. I have once, at least on one occasion, managed to talk to my local rep. So it does work, and I've gotten people to vote specific ways just by bitching at them. You'd be surprised.
No, if you actually physically call them, you'd be surprised how few people bother with that. So you won't have to. You might actually get in line with only a couple of people ahead of you.
Yep.
So it's actually not a bad idea. So I think that's more effective because having a conversation with somebody lasts in their mind a lot longer than just a a message that's tabbed on your inbox or something like that.
And with a lot of these, right, a lot of times they turn into form letters, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to send you a form letter right on back. If you call them, it's a lot harder for someone to go, no, screw you, I don't like your position, when they're doing it over voice. People are less likely to do that. And a lot of times, if you make a good point, you can intimidate them into going the way you want.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. All right, so Lessershoe, you have a topic on Discord, on Linux.
Discord, which is, for those of you who may not know, Discord is a very handy voice and text chat program. It's basically, if you've ever heard of Slack, it's basically Slack for gamers is the easiest way to describe it. But it kind of takes some of the functionality of your normal voice server, kind of like TeamSpeak or Mumble, and adds in some internet relay chat room sort of capabilities with it at the same time. It's a pretty handy thing all around. It's been in beta for a while. I thought it was pretty stable while in beta, but now it's officially released, and you can just go grab it from their normal website. So that's always nice to have. And speaking of some more stuff happening in the world, this is in the world of software. We're going to get FLAC, FLAC, which is a lossless audio codec. Chrome 56 and Firefox 51 are going to be adding support for that, which I'd assume there was probably some streaming codec that was created by someone that got implemented into both browsers at about the same time, which for audio files, this is pretty nice. Granted, I don't quite see the point of for streaming it, but it's pretty neat anyway. High bitrate MP3 sounds is good for streaming as FLAC will, but it's nice to have.
I could see why they might do it for Chrome potentially, because I know with Chrome you can store your stuff on on Google itself. You can store your files up in the cloud, so I could see why Google would want to do that for their own browser potentially. Being able
so
to
you can listen to it the same way that you uploaded it as.
Yeah.
And I can see, because FLAC is a really great format because of the lossless nature of it for archiving. It's not, you can't compress it because it's lossless, but when you transfer it to one place to another, it's generally going to be bit per bit perfect. So if you plan on letting it sit on a server for a long time where there's the possibility of bit rot, that's not a bad idea, or where fragmentation could be an issue. You definitely want to go with FLAC for long-term digital storage audio. Now, my next one is, so the Windows subsystem for Linux. Now, this is something that's still in the preview mode or beta mode in Windows, but Bash, which is the terminal emulator / shell for Linux, has been ported over to Windows, which is pretty neat when you think about it, because it's not so much emulating Linux as it is actually running a Linux kernel containerized. So you're actually effectively running two kernels on the machine at the same time. And this next update that's going to be hitting here, which is going to be hitting developer in the next couple of days, the developer preview, is adding some deeper hooks into the system where access control and some file permissioning will be more accessible through Bash. Now, what's interesting about this is it seems like they're going further and further with some of these updates to make this Linux subsystem work deeper and deeper into Windows, which, initially most people thought, okay, this is going to be for developers who want shell scripting and stuff like that, who are used to working inside of Bash. But it seems like they're going another step, which makes me think that something big could be coming. Which, why would you run two kernels? Well, you would want to run two kernels if you were possibly phasing out one. And now if you stop, when I say Linux, don't think GNU Richard Stallman Linux. I'm talking about the code just for the kernel that manages how your operating system talks to the actual physical hardware. The whole .NT kernel is fairly expensive to maintain when you stop and think about it, because it's only Microsoft who maintains this kernel. They have to write all the code, and it is a microkernel, so for the most part, drivers are written on top of it. But there could be a big thing coming here that Microsoft may do what kind of Google did, where they took the Linux kernel and then they took their user space, Android, sat it on top of it. I would not be entirely surprised that you won't see any actual difference, but they may be trying to phase out the NT kernel over for the Linux kernel as a cost savings feature on Microsoft. Because if you go and look at the Git submits, pulls, and requests for Linux, it's insane how much development happens at any given point of time. You can go on any time of day, hit refresh, you'll see new stuff every time you refresh. That's happening in it. That alone, why pay for all that development when you already have an off-the-shelf kernel that's being developed all the time, and all you would have to do is write some user space-specific stuff for the kernel on your own, which I think Microsoft has a real financial incentive to do that. But that's speculation on my part, because if you look at Apple leverages the BSD kernel in their operating system, Google leverages the Linux kernel in theirs, and the fact that Windows is actually starting to run a Linux kernel inside of it might mean they're starting to posture for that. Time will tell, but it would seem like it would make a lot of sense in this fact that Windows kind of wants to move more to a rolling update model. It would be much easier to do with the Linux kernel than always trying to rewrite some of the spaghetti code that exists in the NT kernel. Oh, wow. I figured I'd get more responses. That was more on the controversial side.
So the April Fool's joke every year might actually be a thing now. With the Linux and Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like a really good idea for Microsoft to do in a lot of ways. I can see them definitely doing that. I mean, with, what is it? They were kind of taking the steps when it came to... was it Windows Azure, I think, when they started poking at Linux? And then they have this.
They've had a weird relationship with Linux and Unix-like operating system. Interex is probably the earliest foray into giving some levels of Unix capabilities to Windows, and that was back in, I think, 2000 when they first released it, and then they forgot about it in 2000 by the time XP came around. But there's a real financial incentive to not bother developing your own kernel anymore.
Wait for what?
Who is it?
But yeah, that's a possibility to maybe look forward to. You won't notice the difference as an end user. An end user, it'll look identical, smell the same, but from a development point of view, and it's not just Azure, Microsoft has put in a lot of money into Docker, and they've also put a lot of code into the Linux kernel as well.
Yeah.
They're already moving that way, and the nice thing about the Linux kernel is it runs under GPL license 2 instead of 3. 2 allows you to put closed source stuff on top of it as long as it doesn't touch the code and you're all right. Now, if it's GPL 3, you can't do that and would cause all sorts of legal issues. So, and I think Kewldad's about to fall out of his chair. And on that note, we'll just skip to the next topic.
There we go.
Okay. Let's see.
Kewldad, you're up, man.
All right. So, European Parliament Committee, not the voting body, but just a subcommittee, has voted in favor of a draft report that proposes granting legal status to robots, which classifies them or categorizes them as electronic persons. Which I don't even want to know how much legal stuff that this opens up. I got a quote here. It says the most sophisticated and autonomous robots could be established as having the status of electronic persons with specific rights and obligations, including that of making good any damage they may cause. And I want to know is how far can this go? Does this only apply to like normal humanoids with What was that? Does this only apply to like humanoid robots, like you see in iRobot, or does this apply to like other kind of robots, like self-driving?
It's not going to be basically human type robots, and the reason being is that despite the Boston Dynamics video where we had the robot kind of marching around when they were knocking over and it got back up, you remember that?
Yeah.
The reason that you're not going to see a lot of that is primarily because I had this discussion with Osiris a few months back. And having a robot in that form is extremely energy inefficient.
Yeah.
Because they got to lift up legs, they have to balance themselves, and people don't really understand how complicated it is to stay balanced and upright with only 2 legs and no tail as a counterweight, and to move gracefully and then lift objects without tipping over. So it's a huge energy drain, and most of the sheer weight of the robot is going to be either hydraulics and power. And so they're going to be using different types of robotics, something that doesn't look human for those purposes. I'm thinking of Futurama when they're out for the Blurns ball game, and Bender starts bitching and moaning about how like this robot that comes out of the steps, so it's like going up to sweep up all their broken glass. And basically, I'm thinking of robots like that are small form factor.
This law would apply to more like Bender type robots if we want to go there.
Right, yeah.
Or like human robots.
Drunk and belligerent.
Yes.
What I find interesting about this, though, is I think this is people who don't quite understand technology, because a cockroach is still more sophisticated than the most advanced robot we currently have.
Yeah. I think they want to apply.
So to try to guarantee them rights would be like saying it somehow has more rights than the cockroach, which to me is absurd.
Yeah.
Wait.
Or assuming that your blender has rights or some nonsense like that. I mean, the question philosophically doesn't make a lot of sense, because you're talking about rights which are only granted towards things that possess personhood. And legally, you get into the definition of personhood. And that gets kind of iffy because you think about things like abortion and other issues that are out there with like what qualifies as a person.
The possibility of sentience in high order animals and things like that.
Right, or like dolphins for technically, or theorize that they actually possess language, but they don't have imposable thumbs, and they don't use tools, and they don't really have any methodology to create technology. But are they people? Most are in the camp of not really. But yeah, it gets complicated when you bring in the concept of sapience versus sentience.
Yeah.
So I don't see that really going anywhere for the robots. Fuck the robots.
Another interesting little blurb they have there. Have we all seen iRobot here?
No, I read the books because I.
Well, they got something in here that's like the 3 laws that they got. It's just kind of a shorter version. It says, robot may not harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. That's the only one I got. I got the 3 laws written right here, but I don't really feel like reading them out.
Okay.
Well, the 3rd law is basically you don't allow harm to come to yourself so long as it doesn't violate the first 2 laws.
Yeah,
So the problem with
a little thing in there like the robot must be able to protect itself as long as it doesn't hurt another person.
what was the first one again?
Does not allow a person to be harmed through action or inaction. And second rule is to obey human orders so long as it doesn't violate rule number 1.
But what if
rule number 3 is that rule number 1 and rule number 2 supersede self-preservation, but unless those 2 are in conflict with it, preserve yourself.
With the inaction thing, it's probably like if the robot sees a kid in the path of a school bus, it's probably going to knock the kid out of the way and kill itself. So,
well, in all honesty, it just sounds like it will eventually figure out, wait, isn't humanity's biggest threat humanity?
Yes.
And then kill everyone.
Well, no, because it violates the first rule.
But at the same time, it
really should just use the laws from the books and the movie.
No, Nugget, that won't work because this whole thing of creating contradictions, machines don't handle contradictions well.
They blue screen.
Yeah.
You don't want your humanoid robot to blue screen while it's walking in the street.
Damn it.
I don't know. We get people blue screening when they get a phone call, basically on their phone when they're walking. So it wouldn't be a whole lot different.
We get people blue screening I can see people blue screening every day. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Next topic.
A little bit more tinfoil for you.
This one is so tinfoil. I need to get the hat out.
Yeah, you do.
All right, so.
I'm thinking more along the lines of those creepy ones in Japan that they put like synthetic skin and they put human hair on them and they actually look like people. Those are just creepy. Like, God damn it, Japan.
Yeah. All right, so this kind of blew up over the forum, like multiple threads and whatnot. As we all know, get my hat just right. We have FBI people working in non-governmental organizations just as informants or whatnot, and this one happened to be working at Best Buy in the Geek Squad department, and a customer brought in his computer, which, first off, that's where you messed up. You brought your stuff in the Geek Squad. He brought it in there, and let's see, what does it say exactly here? An FBI informant reported he accidentally located on the person's computer an image of a fully nude, prepubescent female on a bed in a position I'm not going to read out.
Wimp.
And when he found that, he notified his boss, also an FBI informant. Get my hat back on because this is just getting worse. Who alerted a colleague. So they got 3 FBI informants and 1 Geek Squad. That's like the whole department. Claiming the image met the definition of, okay, whatever. Then the rest of that.
Child pornography, yeah.
Wow, this resolution's terrible.
All right. Now, there are some technicalities. Companies performing computer and electronic device repairs are legally required to report if they find, kitty porn. The difference here is the paycheck. The Geek Squad member has been paid $500 for digging around in customers' computers, and this is all alleged. Just saying that before we go any farther. This hat, I swear to God. They get paid $500 and they report their things to the FBI, and that changes things because this isn't just a legal obligation now; it's a cash obligation. And Tracer, I don't know if you want to chime in on any of this or whatnot.
I'm choosing not to chime in on this because of the fact that I don't have enough information to give one comment one way or the other. The main reason for that is because of the fact that when it comes to child pornography, the laws they're a little different than normal laws. Like there are allowances for extreme situations because when it comes to child pornography, the government's usual general rule of thumb is if we find child pornography, we will find you, we will hunt you down, we will destroy you, we will penalize you completely, you will be a child sex offender forever, indefinitely, forever and ever, amen. It is a scary, scary black box of stuff that I'm just like, I don't know enough about this case to give one comment or one way or the other because a lot of it has been clickbait. But when it gets to a court level, I can comment on it. I can be like, okay, I can look at all the legal facts. But if I can't look at the legal facts, I can't really analyze it from a legal perspective.
So what I'm getting off of this is they're never going to actually catch a tech-savvy criminal with this route.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about that.
Your tech-savvy criminal won't go to Best Buy.
Yeah, no. It's just like who would be dumb enough to like put their kiddie porn computer up to the Geek Squad in the first place? And just like
you have a point.
I mean, what? They'd probably just stash it on an external hard drive if they're just an average person too.
Yeah. Well, there have been cases of people butt dialing 911 while committing a crime. So.
Right, but you're asking
that's an accident.
You're asking for dumb luck on behalf of the law enforcement community instead of like an effective measure. Then
yeah.
This is you're literally just handing in the evidence. I mean, like, here, don't find it.
What else I want to know is, did they actually intentionally like go deeper into the computer to find this, or was this just on the desktop.
This was the
Yeah,
best.
that would be an interesting discussion. Is if they started using what's it called? Like if they were actually using forensic software and stuff like that to actually start really diving the computer to look for fragments and things like that. That would be interesting if it went to that point, because then at that point one could argue they were violating privacy rights because that was never the intended work case of it. But then again, you also you did commit a crime and they did catch you, but that's an interesting hazy area that we could probably argue for quite some time on.
Right, because then it comes to the question of inadmissible evidence if you obtained it illegally. So
that's as great as tinfoil.
Almost, right?
Now, one last thing I gotta say. What if this was a plan? What if they put that image there?
Oh well, then it's. Yeah.
What if they're trying? What if this guy's like an agent for another country and they're trying to nab him for something else, but they can't? So they put the plant there.
Oh, they're trying to Al Capone him essentially. They're trying to find some.
In all honesty, right? No, okay. If you're going to do that, right? If the FBI takes somebody away, you don't hear about it.
Well, I was going to say it's much easier.
See, that's the part where the government messed up.
We wouldn't be talking about this right now if that was the case.
Yes.
No, I just
means they messed up.
Okay, stop tinfoiling.
I'm thinking tax code
next
easier.
All right, let's move on from that dark subject.
Let's not.
Amazon. Yeah, let's go there. Article up. All right, so Amazon
is
has said they will create 100,000 not part-time but full-time jobs in the United States with full benefits over the next 1.5 years. Which I'm so happy about that. I love it.
Okay.
And it's not just scrubs working at a fulfillment center. It says across all skill and experience levels. Most of them will be at fulfillment centers because they're making a whole bunch of new ones, even right here in Michigan, just a few miles from my house. And they got in multiple states like California, Florida, New Jersey, and Texas. And they will also have stuff in cloud technology for their Amazon AWS stuff and machine learning and logistics and whatnot. And got a blurb. As part of the hiring spree, Amazon says it will hire an additional 25,000 veterans and/or military spouses over the next 5 years as part of that. I don't know if that counts as the 100,000 or that's just the 125,000.
I think Amazon, it probably counts as the 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume as much as well.
And it says they plan to train 10,000 active duty service members, veterans, military spouses not employed by the company in cloud computing. So go work for another company in cloud computing just to have more people knowledgeable about said subject.
Someone's getting some tax breaks.
Well, I was kind of actually thinking about that because
there's no way they would just do this.
Well, because
they're trying to warm up to you know who.
Yeah.
Well, my thinking is this: is the tax code here is just people don't truly understand how fucking corrupt it is by its very nature, how contradictory and dysfunctional. But
it's glorious.
No, because my stepfather is a tax collector, and ever since high school, when I went to the IRS building here in Atlanta off Buford Highway, and I went into there and looked at one copy of the tax code, and it was 8-foot tall cabinets on both sides of this little aisle room that went down like 40 feet or something like that. That was one copy of the tax code. He's like, this is already out of date. But essentially, they're probably trying to negotiate some type of exemption or deduction where they can keep more capital here without paying as many taxes in general. Because a lot of popular tax dodge is to just keep business overseas. I mean, there's really no incentive, to pay our corporate taxes here because they're like the highest in the world.
Yeah,
so,
one of the worst. Even Europe has way less business tax than we do.
No. It is literally the highest tax rate in the world.
Yeah, on the top graphic at 45%, yeah.
Yeah, it's horrendous. You'd have to be a moron to put your capital here based off corporate interest there. So they probably, in order to bring more jobs over, they're probably trying to work some half-bungled idea of a deal here that they're going to try and get out of paying the taxes while still bringing the capital back from overseas. Because Amazon right now, I don't know how many of you guys like follow investment stuff very closely or whatever, but they've been a winner for a long time, and their expansion and growth rate has really, it still looks pretty good, and they look to be like one of the top winners and top players in the game right now with online marketing and retail. So they're gonna keep growing in terms of revenue and influence right there. So they've got more than enough money to hire the people full time and pay well. And if they can make it, get an incentive for bringing it here, I think that's what they're trying to do. This is an act of goodwill for now, maybe, or maybe it's behind closed doors that they've been promised this, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, the good old tax code is going to have its way of shuffling the deck and playing musical chairs with who pays what here. So.
My last thing's a quick topic, so we'll keep going through the thick ones.
Yeah.
So new materials for flexible electronics. Ooh.
Yeah, this was actually something that a guy I know over at not Irvine, what the hell, out in Rice University, that's where it is, at the material science department there. You may be wondering, okay, we've seen like the last couple of years at CES, flexible electronic stuff. We've seen it, but why the hell is this stuff not, being mass produced and on the market where you can buy, a roll-up paper-like sheet that has a display on it, right? We've seen that before. Why is it not on the market? Or something along those lines with flexible phones, et cetera, et cetera. And believe it or not, the actual materials that they use for the actual circuitry, we've had that more or less down for the last 2 years. It's primarily actually the power supply that's the biggest issue, having a flexible battery. And I put in here about new materials for flexible electronics, but also with flexible batteries. Those two go hand in hand. And my buddy Frank, he's the one who's like, yeah, the flexible batteries is the final piece of the puzzle that LG or whoever who wants to bring flexible electronic devices, wearables, for example. This is the final piece that they need to really make that a marketable option for consumers. Because the problem with a lot of batteries, like the conventional lithium-ion matrix that you have thin sheets of the lithium-ion complex, and it's in a fluid that helps, prevent combustion and blowing up and things like that. And these tend to be very brittle and rigid. Hence why you cannot bend it, because it will snap. And you may have fluid leakage, and then oxygen gets in there. Kaboom. So it's in your best interest to not ever bend your
phone.
Yeah, your phone or anything like that. But the new materials here that they've been using, it involves organic polymers that look like, how to put this exactly in layman's terms so it'll make sense. Oh, I know. Like, have you ever baked a cake or donuts or seen something like that? You see the bread rising, right? And you see all the bubbles and
that's what happens when you bend a lithium battery.
Right, but this is a material matrix that has that kind of structure combed throughout the battery, but it's flexible. And what they've done is they've added carbon linkage chains in there. But they're kind of like graphite almost. It's a mixture of graphite with some transition metals over the lithium ions that enable it to bend really well, and it can still hold a charge well. And it's not going to cause ruptures and brittleness or anything like that where you have an out-of-control oxidation reaction. And so,
affect anything energy densities or anything, or batteries going to have to be bigger?
No. It actually affects the energy density too, because you're not having these super thin sheets. You can have a thick chunk, and it's also flexible.
So smaller, more powerful batteries.
Exactly.
Bend? Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Exactly. That's the cool thing, and the reason why that's a big deal is because I'm trying to think here. Where was I put it here? But they actually had working models of this at CES this year for the first time. And that's why I was really surprised that nobody else was talking about this at the time. Because I kept thinking, it's Panasonic. They're the same people who are doing Elon Musk's Gigafactory out in Nevada, or partnering with him anyway, to make the high-density batteries that the Teslas are going to be using. But they're using these flexible ones here now in the hope of getting ahead in the market for prototypes that will be flexible electronics. And the contacts work really well, the charge is really good, and you can have it for low voltage, for low power consumption objects. You can have it for big batteries too, well, bigger, and that's really cool. And so they had working models at CES this year, and I was amazed nobody else talked about that. But Frank was like, "No, this is a huge deal. This is like something that's really going to make the flexible electronics like, okay, now we can start mass producing these, because having a solid battery that holds still in a rigid form and having a flexible screen attached to it, we've been able to do that for a while.
Yeah.
But having like a battery in there, like a big one through your phone that can bend, this is so.
I wonder if you could make, like, for smartwatches, you could make you could have the normal, like, rubber type flexible wristbands, but that could be more battery.
Well, that's my point right there. Actually, I mean, you could have it be something that, well, be kind of interesting charging it up on your wrist and it gets hot or something like that.
You could just hot swap wristbands on there to get more batteries.
Something like that.
It would get warm. That could be a problem.
Yeah, that's my point. That's what I just said. Like, it gets hot on your wrist or something like that. But still, it's an interesting option right there. It adds a lot more options for wearable devices and things of that nature require you to charge, because that's the bane right now of mobile electronics. Has been battery life. Well, we power to, like, in terms of processing power, sure, because you can't have like a cooling unit in there. Really, you can't like have a giant fan on your wristwatch that's like channeling air through to cool it off, or a closed water loop or Pepto-Bismol loop, aka sulfol on there. But yeah, the battery life has always been a major problem for mobile electronics since we started having like touch screens and things of that nature. But anywho, there's one thing I thought about talking about, because somebody I knew who works over at Cornell had sent me this, and she thought it was hilarious. And I kept thinking about when Nuggetninja was talking the other day, like, we need more clickbait, more clickbait, more clickbait.
So cow farts.
Yeah, cow farts, essentially. And it's like, this notion is from a professor over at James Cook University over in Australia, where they're talking about, okay, what is the real source of carbon emissions on this planet that, yeah, it's a naturally occurring thing, but what if we could cut it down a notch, or 2 or 3? And believe it or not, what humans put out with vehicles and airplanes and transportation vehicles, it makes up a very small percentage of the actual carbon that's emitted into the atmosphere. It makes it very little, actually. And a hell of a lot more comes from bovine, like creatures, like farting, basically, cow flatulence and things of that nature. And if you think about things like CO2 really isn't that big a deal, folks. I'm sorry, its specific heat is much lower than methane. It doesn't trap heat anywhere near as well. I've done the experimentation in the lab. It's not a big deal. But the methane, on the other hand, and the basically methylated halogens like CFCs, that's a big deal. That can make a difference. And they're thinking, okay, how do we make the cows less gassy? Because we've got billions of cows on the earth right now that we use for food consumption, dairy, things of that nature. And this professor over at James Cook University, he actually developed a new diet for the cattle that he was testing with. And he found that if you add like a 3% by volume ground up seaweed mixture into their regular staple food that they consume with hay or whatever they're consuming, that it reduces the methane output of the cows by anywhere from 50 to 70%. And my skeptic hat was kind of spinning here. I'm like, wait a minute. How does that work exactly? And
they're only putting it in 2% of the feed.
3%, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, a single-digit percentage of the feed.
Very small.
And to me, it just sounds too good to be true right there. And so, from what I've seen here, his publication's behind a paywall for most people. I can see it, but I can't link it to you guys. But his methodology seemed very suspicious. Let's just put it that way.
Gotcha.
The reason being was that his sample size was 8 cows. That's it. And that's the first problem right there. Because
that's a little too small.
Yeah. You need to be doing several hundred at least.
You need to do this on a farm scale.
Yeah, and on top of that, for example, how do I know that these cattle are not transgenic cattle that have certain factors in their digestive tract that make them not eat as much? If they're not eating as much, they're not shitting and farting as much. It's also like wild cattle, like that roam free and stuff like that aren't penned up or anything like that. They're leaner. They're not as fat and plump, and they don't eat as much, so they don't pump out as much gas as domesticated ones. So how do I know you didn't take wild ones from out of somewhere out in Australia and use those? Because he doesn't say where he got these cattle. And I'm like, wait a minute. What kind of cattle are these? Are these wild types? Are these transgenics? Are these domesticated? Like, give us some details. He just tells us the species, and I'm just like, yeah.
The other one would be what breed of cattle.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like,
that plays into a factor too. Is it Brahmin? Is it a Jersey? Is it There's a few different factors in that as well.
Well, he gave the breed. I think it was Brahmin, or maybe something like that. I don't remember. But he gave the breed, but it's still the difference is between a wild type versus a domesticated one. That we do selective breeding with our cattle, things of that nature. They're very different in a lot of ways from wild types. So these are all important. So how do we know that that's really what's going on? Is that you're just introducing seaweed, or you didn't have a specific type of cattle? And on top of that, whenever you have something like this, okay, let's just say you did your due diligence. You've got various control groups. You've got a big sample size, and you've got the genetic work here to prove, okay, these are just ordinary domesticated cows. That we have literally billions of these things, housed up all over the planet that we're using for dairy and for meat. And this is the result here. What is the mechanism by which this is happening inside of the cow? It's always like, even if you don't know, you should at least propose a mechanism. Like, what do you think is going on here? And he doesn't even do that. And so I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that the guy's full of shit. It's just that his
cattle might not be.
Yeah, exactly. His methodology leaves a lot to be desired. So my skeptic hat was like on super tight, and my friend up at Cornell, she's like, yeah, he might be right, but it's just he didn't do a very good job of this publication. I was like, yeah. But yeah, the Australian government was like looking at it and they're like, "Ooh, this looks interesting." So let's see what we can get out of it. So hopefully they'll actually do like a better study to find out if this is the case, because if they can like cut methane emissions down by like 50 to 70% in most cattle across the planet, that'd be kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So
we do know need more cows, a longer term study, and is there any long term effects to said cows that are being fed different diets and whatnot? Because it says it interferes with microbial digestive enzymes responsible for methane.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like that's true of any type of diet that you're going to take. If you go from being somebody who eats a lot of meat in your diet to somebody who eats a lot of fruit consistently and very little meat, the bacteria are going to change in your gut tract. And so, I mean, yeah, there's probably going to be some long-term effects, but they're not going to be ones that really are all that significant, I would think.
It's all hunky-dory?
Well, I wouldn't say hunky-dory necessarily, because for humans, for example, a lot of people who develop certain diseases of the gut are people who go from an omnivorous diet, where you have your plants and your vegetables and fruits and your meats, to just vegetables and fruits, and so that they go vegan and they end up developing serious digestive problems, because this gets into some controversy, which is that we have enzymes in our gut, not produced by the bacteria, but just within the intestinal cilia, that are designed to only do one thing, and that's tear meat apart and extract nutrients out of it. And that's like the silver bullet to the vegans and the vegetarians say, we don't need to eat meat. Well, we evolved to eat meat. We wouldn't have this integrated into our organs if we weren't designed to eat meat. So it's like saying that this is the natural method. I'm like, no, that's wrong. Fail. That's just not accurate. It's not the case. But I mean, granted, that's kind of rare, though. Most people can do the full vegetarian conversion without developing some type of digestive disease, but it's believed that you are at higher risk if you do that. So for most people.
We know what would fix this.
What's up, Nugget? Tell us your sage wisdom.
Centical.
Oh, I hate you.
I totally said that out of the blue.
Yeah, I was thinking of Futurama right there.
Yes, on the scale of a centical, because if it's just a normal cow with no seaweed, can you imagine the methane that would come out of that thing? Environmentalists would be killing those things left and right, but
if we have centical,
yes, we can have
seaweed-powered centical.
No, we could have the tree huggers and the PETA people kill each other. That'd be awesome.
That'd be amazing.
Just because they can't complain about methane anymore, because no more cow farts.
Wait. What about what about a Senta bison?
I like bison.
Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
Actually, on the bison one, there's been studies on it that in North America, bison are significantly less destructive to the environment because they're naturally supposed to be here. And due to that, and they generally have less methane output. So in North America, they actually are one of the type of animals as a food animal that makes a lot more sense than using cattle. And in my opinion, I think they taste better anyway.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Bison is pretty good.
So when I can go get my GMO bison at Myers, that'll be the day.
Let me tell you something here now. Every single thing you have ever eaten is GMO.
Good.
Like, everything. Like, there's no such thing as an organism that exists today that wasn't genetically modified to be a certain way.
Okay, I've had customers from California where they were like, well, I can tell this apple is GMO. It's like, I respond with them. Well, first off, that's impressive. Cool. And second of all, everything is.
Yeah.
Literally everything is. So yeah, if we were, we'd have to mark literally everything in the store. But they were like, no, well, this shelf isn't. You know, it was our organic, non-GMO section. I'm like, no, it's all been modified by humans at some point in time.
Yeah.
You should show them a picture of a before and after of the year 1900, what corn looked like, and then what it looked like in 1950.
Even what it looked like before then.
Yeah, before then, it looked like the baby corn stuff you see in Chinese food. But it wasn't much bigger than that.
Yeah, but people are like, oh, it's non-GMO. I'm like, no, it's the same food. And also the organic stuff makes me laugh too. But yeah, it's like they got annoyed. I'm like, it's this.
So in other news of bleeding edge technology.
Yeah, so let's kick off our
lightning
quick
round.
bits.
Triple monitor laptops. What?
Yeah,
Got
Razer
stolen?
had their
By Linus?
Yes,
I
Linus
forget
took
what this
it.
is called, but
You
this
saw
laptop
it?
Then
was
promptly
stolen.
broke it.
Project Valkyrie is what it was called.
Yeah, Project Valkyrie. They had two of them, and it confused me for the longest time because they were similar. The one with the projector, and then this laptop.
Oh yeah, that's Project Aura or something.
But yeah, this
Well, the
was
thing
stolen.
is, the Project Valerie is
Is it Valerie or Valkyrie?
Valerie.
Valerie.
Yeah.
Linus stole it.
yeah, Linus did steal
There's
it.
photographic evidence on the internet.
Yes, it must be true because it's on the internet. So
Yeah, it's not photoshopped at all.
there will be no jury, none of that nonsense. Just lock him up.
Caveman
He
is
secretly dropped it, and
You
then
could put
someone
the picture
thought
up
it was
and
okay to
send
take it.
Yeah, one of the screens started like flickering. It's like, oh, it's mine now.
Yep. It's bricked. But yeah, $25,000 reward for finding said laptop, which probably cost that much, honestly.
And then they found it in China. So that was a thing.
And that was the last time China was allowed at CES.
Ever.
So about
Oh, there's
this,
still two of them.
the thing about this in particular, and what's laughable about CES is their security is not that good. Like the way their events are run is horrendous. Like their security is laughable. Like it really is. Every year something gets stolen from CES. Every single year without fail. Which it kind of dumbfounds me how many people still go to it. But what is important about this in general when it comes to whoever stole this? I feel bad for Razer, even though I don't like their products. I feel bad for them because they spent the time engineering this stuff, and now it's potential that anyone could potentially be using that technology that they themselves developed. They may have patents on it though that could keep that from happening in the United States at least.
Yeah, the
Not
United
China.
States, but China doesn't give a shit about it.
Oh yeah, and it's being sold in China.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be a
Chinese.
copy of it in China, and then the
So
Chinese government were like, "What are you talking about? What's nothing like that thing from CES?"
Yep, China's government. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Chevy with Bobs and stuff. Yeah, Caveman, put the picture up.
You know, if you put it in the video, I see it, and then it's gone, and then I can't put it up.
Oh,
So just put it in the actual chat, and then I can actually put it on the screen.
No, I'm thinking of this as like something that they Razer writes a letter to Trump begging him to get meeting with China. Give back the stolen Razer laptop.
I'm
else
thinking
tariffs.
like this $25,000 reward. That's probably just like the physical value of the two laptops.
that's probably. In all honesty, I would put it in.
You gotta think, 12 grand for triple 4K on a Razer laptop. That's probably not that far fetched.
That sounds about right, actually.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
and,
I think it was such overkill. That was pure gluttony. It was awesome.
Yeah, Linus is the one who stole it and brought it to China to sell.
Well, he broke it. He had to cover it up.
Yeah, and, there's photographic evidence. That's undeniable. That is definitely a picture of Linus.
And
looking
it definitely could
suspicious
not have been photoshopped at
with
all.
his
No.
hand going
Oh,
through the
Jesus.
laptop.
Definitely.
How
Definitely.
strong is that hinge not to fold?
See, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Like, how tough has it got to be? How much?
I mean, is it just,
How much
does it have a
tensile
lock?
strength?
The hinge has to have a lock or something.
I would make
Something
that.
along those lines.
Personally, if I was Razer, I'd make that string. I'd make that hinge very strong because you don't want it breaking. People being like, "My $12,000 laptop broke. What are you doing?" I imagine it's reinforced at the very least. I think they want it to be motorized too, so like the panels would slide. I don't think they fold. I think they slide out. There's gonna be like two made. Well, two more made besides the ones Linus broke. But yeah.
So Intel-powered laptops, we can talk about more Intel, so hyper-threaded Pentiums.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. They're hyper-threaded, and yet they are not unlocked or anything interesting. So that's just kind of a quick
There's no
word.
point.
Well, at least you have 4 threads for like $100 now, so it's not
Which is nice.
terrible.
Yeah.
It is nice. I like it. It's good for people who just need a computer that works for like word processing and stuff.
But you should buy AMD for that.
In all honesty, if you get like the APUs, they're so cheap. You can get them so cheap.
Yes.
Right?
Get a cheap APU. Do Pentiums have iGPUs?
Yeah.
Do Pentiums
Yeah.
have iGPUs?
Yeah, they do.
have the lower end Intel one. So
Yeah, but in all honesty, the APUs you can get for like nothing nowadays, especially since Zen's coming. So you want to build like a $400 PC that actually can sort of play games.
Yeah. Speaking of hyper-threaded things, LG G6. Probably not hyper-threaded, just has many cores. You guys gotta make more bogus segues.
yeah, it has a strange 18:9 aspect ratio display. That's the one thing I noticed.
18 by
18 by
9.
9?
Yeah,
This was like an iPhone 5 where it's just slightly taller than
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah, that is a weird one.
Weird.
yeah, it's 2880 by 1440.
I need to measure stuff now because I'm curious what the. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I still have the LG G5, and it's a lot better than people who constantly hate on it. So I mean, I'm liking the LG G5, but yeah, I'm not gonna ever use the removable battery part. But there's that.
I still use the same phone I bought like 4 years ago.
Do I need to make another terrible segue now?
Yes.
Let's see.
Speaking
Another
of
thing from LG.
Thin, high pixel density devices. People can just like stop with the whole EP thin 4K TV thing.
I mean, seriously, if a TV is less than an inch thick, does it really matter past that point? You know?
No.
Well, no,
She'll
it
care.
does. It does matter for marketing.
No, I mean
Says
like
right
in terms
here.
of utility.
It's 2.57 millimeters thick. You don't need that. Like, look, here's the Nexus 6P. This is like 8 millimeters. It's fine. It's just
I was gonna say, I'm thinking of Zoolander when he pulls out the phone. It's like it fits on the end of his thumb, you know.
yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we don't need things that tiny here. Okay, there comes a point where further miniaturization doesn't serve any benefit here.
What else can we compare this to? Like, making phones with higher pixel densities and more pixel cameras? Like, just it's pointless. Stop, please.
Well, it's like the 4K cell phones. It's like, why? Why? For the love of Jesus, why?
Well, it's like
Your energy and research into making cheap 4K panels that
Well,
are
it's like-
decent.
this phone is like 10 millimeters thick, a little less. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Well, that's kind of like
It's
one of the
fine.
things
It's
about
fine.
OnePlus that I actually liked about them a lot was that they stuck with 1080p for their screen resolutions because it's like
That's all you need.
You don't need any more than that,
1080p. It's amazing.
and you get much better battery life. Just stick with 1080p. It's fine.
There is a slight possibility, and that's if you decide to use something like Daydream or like one of the VR APIs for the phone. Maybe at that point having a higher than 1080 screen matters, but that's a very small subset of the population who's going to take a phone and strap it to their face. So
Yeah.
I've done it, but yeah, most people
Of
won't.
course you have.
See, I'm just thinking about like back in 2007. What if we had these screens when people were throwing all their Wii remotes through TVs? This would have gone through the TV into your wall.
Yeah, it would have gone to the drywall.
That would have been
Yes.
amazing.
You're not only just scrapping your TV, now you're breaking your house. Good job.
But here's the thing: like, I get it.
Totally irrelevant.
To me, it's very difficult to get excited about TVs because I think a lot of us, in our age group, we've always been under the mentality that like, yeah, TV is kind of a thing of the past. So why not just get like monitors for like your setup here? Like stop making it like, okay, this is a TV here. And so it's very hard to get that excited about it. But one thing I was wondering about, did you guys see the nano dot? The nano dot technology versus the quantum dot LG was talking about.
Yeah, I saw that, and it's interesting technology. They're fairly comparative, like almost trying to do the exact same thing, but the way they're doing it is slightly different. But yeah, it's just like, okay, the thing that gets me right now is we still don't have one standard with HDR monitors and televisions. And then I found it hysterical with NVIDIA where they're like, we're going to have G-Sync HDR. I'm like,
No.
so what standard is this? And I looked into this, and really they're just clever way of saying we're doing HDR10, but we're calling it G-Sync HDR. And I'm just like,
The sticker price on those monitors is going to be.
it's going to be nuts. Like the price is just going to be insane on
Because the price of G-Sync monitors are insane as is.
Yeah. Like the other thing that's interesting that came with CES was you had the FreeSync 2, and as well as you have HDR by AMD, and I'm more curious about the AMD FreeSync 2 monitors that weren't shown in CES, but there's potential for Computex. But that's enough from me about that.
Yeah, see, they ran out of excuses to use 4K as a buzzword, so they needed another fancy
HDR.
thing. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's it.
They forgot RGB. They need to have an RGB TV next.
No, now
RGB.
you're gonna get an HDR keyboard,
RGB CPUs.
high dynamic range keycaps.
RGB Ryzen processors.
What? Yes. You can get a dye. You can get a dye heat spreader in the color of your choosing, even though you'll never see it again once you go around.
That's worse than the Corsair RGB hat.
All the Razer RGB cup holder.
Or they had the rock. I don't remember what they specifically called it, but it was like an MMO rock.
It was the RGB rock.
Yes.
It's amazing. People just, I love it.
No, that could be
Railed.
like a skit here. Like, what kind of ridiculous RGB product can we come up with?
Crystal RGB, it's revolutionary.
Could have an RGB chair.
RGB spoons and forks, man. You need it.
RGB multi-tools.
Oh, I
See,
wrote
this would be
earlier in
perfect.
the threads or the forums we were talking about RGB toilets.
No, I need to get some LEDs on this head pillow. So the whole time you guys are watching me, this is just rotating different color schemes. That
RGB
would really annoy everybody.
Guys, good idea. RGB LEDs.
What? Well,
That's revolutionary. Dude,
Captain Obvious.
okay, we make RGB LEDs, our profits are going to go insane. You aren't even going to be able to believe it. Trust me.
RGB
Hey, bro, I heard
gas
you like
profits.
RGBs.
Our profits
All
are going to be
RGB.
huge.
They're gonna be huge.
And in other companies that make things that do RGB, Nokia.
What?
What?
What
Plus
RGB device have they ever made?
I'm so
say,
Phone
confused.
screens. Go to the next article, damn it.
Yeah.
Nokia plus Android, but only in China. China.
So
I think you just summed it up already.
yeah,
Yep.
you did.
Yeah.
You did sum it up. I do have some potential rumors for Nokia phone. So there is a word on the street or a word on the internet that at the upcoming Mobile World Conference, they will potentially be showcasing a higher tier smartphone that's actually aimed at the Western market, like Europe and the United States. That's a rumor right now. And the thing is, the likelihood of that happening is about 50% happening. The reason I say that is because the mobile conference, they unveil a lot of phones during that time, so it could happen during that time. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
We will see that. Indeed.
Should I fill in his
there's
words?
that.
You see what happens?
Last little
Well,
blurb to make this an
speaking
hour and a
of
half show.
China, and sticking it to China, apparently Apple is going to be shifting more manufacturing
Away from China.
away from China recently. They're going to be going to Arizona from what I've seen so far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it's
expanding a facility they already have.
Yeah,
But
don't do it in California. Just go
Suicide rates are
to
too
almost
high.
anywhere else. But yeah,
Suicide
You know
rates are
what's
getting too high.
important to go with this Apple, manufacturing facilities? They need a pumpkin spice coffee, making facility for Starbucks right next to it, and we can pump out white girls faster than any nation on earth.
Dude, wait, that's terrifying.
oh
That's
god.
absolutely terrifying. That's why we need to get rid of the entire nuclear arsenal
Alright.
on that factory.
Before we fully derail this, let's get a couple things from the article. All it says is Apple is seeking to conduct high-tech manufacturing, which makes me think Apple
iPhones.
Car or Apple House, however many Apple things they can put their name on and make it
I
big and
could see
expensive, but only make it in
car.
America.
Moving to America means they can charge even more for the same thing.
Yes, they'll charge more, but it'll be a big thing because they can't ship it on a boat from China.
But here's the thing. Well, no, because you can ship cars. But I imagine it would be cars, the Apple car, whatever that ends up being called. That's what I imagine it'll be.
It'll
Oh,
be
it has
the
a
Apple
special
car
gas
that has
cap
flex-
that. It has a special gas cap that if you want to refuel, you need an adapter to hook up to any normal gas station.
Yes,
yes.
they have
Exactly.
proprietary gas stations.
You know what it has to be? It has to be like a triangular gas cap. You'd get so many people just trying to stick the circle in, except in New Jersey. You'd get people trying to stick the circle in.
New Jersey finally found a use for. They're the prime target for the Apple car.
Dude, it would be hilarious just seeing people on the highway. They get out of their car, they go, and they're just like,
This would just further reinforce the notion that
Like, oh no, you got to go to that gas pump over there. This is going to be gas pump segregation.
oh
No,
my
dude,
god.
first of all, you can't pump your own gas in Jersey, and now this shit, it's like Jersey is cancer.
We have to have Apple-only gas stations.
All you PC plebs have to go to somewhere else. I don't use a computer. It doesn't matter.
One last thing, they're going to do some more cloud data services and stuff.
That I can
Well, they
see.
got a lot of catching up to do to Google, Amazon, Microsoft.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're
That's
not.
what they're
Rackspace.
attempting to do.
they're starting the race
I mean, they're up.
after the other contestants have already run halfway through it. It's like
Yeah.
You guys, does
Yeah.
any of you have VR goggles?
My friend does. Why?
No?
Eat
My
up.
friend does.
Oh, hold on.
Not me, my friend.
Okay.
Why?
What do you got? What does he got?
He has the Samsung VR thing. I don't remember what it's called.
Has anybody tried them?
I have.
I have.
Are they cool as shit or are they crap?
Depends which
They're a
one.
waste of money.
Waste of money? Oh,
Yep.
They're cool, but they're too expensive.
Yeah, they're the $800. They're an $800 waste of cash. Don't buy them.
Yeah, if you have a friend with them, though, they're cool. Get a friend.
the price doesn't really matter. It's okay. I'm not. Going
Okay, then go get one.
Okay. Well, what? Samsung is.
Samsung works with.
I've also used the HTC Vive. I haven't used the modern Oculus, but the HTC Vive was pretty sick.
No, I use it at Georgia Tech, actually. A guy I know, he had one. It was pretty nice. It's just that you have to go through all the setup. Yeah, get the camera situated and make sure everything's out of your way so you don't, like, run into shit.
Well, I have an expert here that will assist me in any of that shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's your thumbnail.
Sorry for the interruption. Back to your programming. Thanks, guys.
Back to the regularly scheduled tech.
You do have Adobe Premiere, right?
That's Kewldad 007.
Let's keep that in.
You guys want to go see?
God damn it.
You know that's
Bye, Daddy.
streaming
Bye,
live
Daddy.
right
You
now.
better have like
I
30
had
different thumbnails from that. All right.
So is that better than your mom?
So yeah, that was all live. So have fun with that, cool dude.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll name this one Dad Powered VR.
Yes! Yes! Clickbait awesomeness right there. That's perfect.
God. There you go.
Now to
Well, it's
finish
almost
off
as good
this,
as when Nugget got called by his mama to get the hell downstairs.
Oh,
Actually, if you
It's
want to
like-
know,
Ugh.
my camera just cut out. If you want, because she just walked in.
it would be amazing
Yeah, I
if
saw
that
it.
same
No,
thing
no,
happened.
Nugget, I saw earlier.
I heard
just
it
like,
was fun.
Oh, okay, just now I know.
Well, no, she was just dropping off stuff because we have a pile. But never mind.
Okay,
Serious.
so I think
Next
that
week,
about wraps that up.
Bye bye, everyone. I hate you. Have a nice day.
Me too.
Okay, so we'll stop the stream now, and
adios, muchachos.
thanks everyone for
Goodbye.
watching. Whoever's watching,
I don't know why you
all 7
watch.
of you.
What is wrong with you people? Go do
Yeah.
something.
I have to agree. Go do something useful with your life.
Yeah.
And there's the stream.